Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. This is COVID-19 India Fights Back. I'm Frank Rausen Pereira. Well, COVID-19 has led to severe disturbances in organizing, financing and delivery of healthcare worldwide as countries are struggling to control and cope with the pandemic. At the same time, in India, where healthcare has never received sufficient attention until very recently, the pandemic has brought the attention to the anomalies in the healthcare sector, some of which are getting addressed for the first time. Low public financing for healthcare, primarily responsible for poor infrastructure, equipment, human resources, and ultimately poor service delivery, has seen some significant budgetary allocations by both state and central governments. Now, additional resources are being used for clearing new infrastructure, purchase of new equipment and recruitment of additional human resources such as doctors and nurses, which will remain even after the pandemic is over. This additional infrastructure and human resources will significantly strengthen the public system. The pandemic has highlighted the critical role that state governments need to play in the healthcare sector. Most of the health policy analyses and recommendations have primarily targeted the central government, even though, as per the Constitution, state governments are responsible for healthcare delivery. In this edition of COVID-19 India Fights Back, we will analyze what reforms are needed in the healthcare sector. Joining me on the program today are K. Madan Gopal, Senior Consultant, Niti Aayog, Atul Mohan Kochar, CEO, National Accreditation Board for Hospitals and Healthcare Providers, and R.K. Srivastav, former Director General of Health Services, Government of India. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of COVID-19 India Fights Back. Okay, Dr. Srivastav, let me begin the program with you first. Let's first try and understand, as far as the healthcare system is concerned, what are the lessons that COVID-19 has taught us over the last few months?
Thank you. I think let me begin with the lessons which are very, very visible during last 6-7 months, during which we have been facing the pandemic. The first and the foremost lesson which we know is that if we are prepared for facing such type of pandemic, both administratively, financially, and the infrastructure wise, we could have handled the situation in a better way. So a preparedness plan for such type of pandemic or epidemic, which has been emphasized time and again by World Health Organization and other groups also, but a robust preparedness plan has to be put up in place, and there should be mock drill for such type of thing, almost in the same way as we do for Republic Day, as we do for Independence Day. That is something which is very necessary now, after having seen the system under a lot of strain after this particular type of pandemic. The second lesson which we have learned, that mostly when there are such type of pandemic which has got community involvement, large scale involvement, the standard healthcare remains usually unserved. The normal healthcare, which involve all those type of ailment for which the patients are coming to the various health posts, they remain as a second fiddle in the overall healthcare management. So there should be a robust plan for maintaining continuity of the available demand of the healthcare by other conditions which are non-pandemic in nature. The third thing which we have learned is that there is a very, very definitive role to be played by center and state, and there should be clear demarcation between the two. Now it should not be like this, that the center starts saying that this is not our domain, state start saying that this is not our domain, you fund us only, then we will do it. So there should be a very clear-cut guidance document which should be accepted by all the state under the highest body of the health.
Right.
And that should be activated or invoked as soon as we face such type of situation.
Absolutely.
And lastly and not the least, that the system of investment, and technology integration within the overall management program, be it pandemic like situation or normal healthcare delivery, should be maximized as much as possible. I don't say that all of a sudden you increase the investment to 2.5%, but there should be a clear cut timeline to increase the investment and ease out the various things which are bottleneck in utilization. So it is not only investment, and it is also spending of the money which is necessary. And all these things, if you look at it,
Hmm.
they open up a large, big reform within the overall health sector, which need to be worked out now,
Sure.
and it should be put up as a backbone for facing any type of crisis in the future.
Absolutely. All right. So, Dr. Gopal, let me bring you into the picture now. The COVID-19 pandemic initially was said to have, really exposed our healthcare system. Many people were worried that our entire healthcare infrastructure and system itself is going to crumble under the pressure of COVID-19. But that has not happened. India has showed its resilience, has fought back and fought back really hard. What are the factors that you would attribute to this?
Uh, uh, Thank you, Mr. Pereira. It's very interesting question because initially when the pandemic started, people were very skeptical saying that our system will not respond to the needs which would be thrown up by the pandemic as the virus progresses. But we should understand the natural progression of any epidemic because the epicenters are different at different times. Apart from that, during the initial phase, when whole of the world was grappling with the issue of handling the virus, we have been very fortunate that we had a lockdown at an appropriate time, and we got time to think about how the virus is progressing. Apart from that, if you look at the 1918 pandemic, that also it moved from west to the eastern side. The similar west to the eastern side and from the south to the eastern side. That kind of movement was there during the earlier pandemic also. If you look at the earlier pandemic of H1N1 also, it moved like that only. That means it affected the highly densely populated area, then it slowly and slowly it moved. It gave us time. It's not that the system was not prepared. Initially, as whole of the world was grappling, if you look at the Western and the European countries, they were caught on the wrong foot. That means they were not prepared. Immediately the virus came and a lot of catastrophe has been visible there. But we are very fortunate that the virus progression has been slow and we got time to prepare ourselves. We got time to do the preparedness. And our system has shown a resilience also during this time. When we were doing the initial projections, we were having, there were very less data which was available in which direction this pandemic will move. So we took the example of Italy, that what would be the case surge per day per million population, and that thing was extrapolated to the Indian population, and our preparedness started from there. That means we have prepared for a surge of 150 cases per million per day. That was the preparedness level since March. So we prepared from that angle. Apart from that, initially, as was expected, it started from densely populated areas. Then it started slowly and slowly. The movements were restricted. As a result, the spread was able to be checked. And the system, the IDSP program, which was there, though it was in some structure, but the system has shown its resilience. The rapid response teams which were there, they were quickly brought into action. And apart from that, we have used the technology for building capacities of these rapid response teams. And as a result, the progress of the epidemic has been slow and we have been able to manage it quite comfortably till now. But the surges are expected now. Whatever surges we have been projecting for preparedness, they are being breached. So that's a very worrisome thing. One day or another day they are being breached. But the preparedness aspect, we are now better prepared as compared to the during the January month.
Absolutely. All right. So, Dr. Kochhar, let me bring you into the picture now. A very important aspect is when we look at the healthcare system, infrastructure, of course, is very important, but also the human resource aspect is equally critical and equally important. Considering that we have a shortage of doctors and, medical practitioners across the country. How important is it for us to, build on that as well and be prepared for something like this, probably for another time?
Right. So, Mr. Frank, let me add a line to what the esteemed panelists already have narrated. I mean, this pandemic, no doubt, has forced us to introspect about the entire scenario, about our lifestyles, from mental health to emotional health to the healthcare delivery. So, all practical aspects of human life have been looked into. I mean, and we have to look into. So I'll add to what Dr. Srivastav sir he said about this thing. So I'll only add that it has also taught us, this pandemic, that we must not be satisfied by creating islands of excellence. I mean, so over the past 15 years since NABH came into existence in 2005, and since then we have started the accreditation process. We have seen that there are now about 9,600 odd hospitals which are partnering in the NABH initiatives under the 21 different programs, including Ayush hospitals and other hospitals. So we have seen that we must not be satisfied. If we are to tackle such future pandemics, we have to reach out to the people. In fact, reach out to the last man in the mile, and that can only happen if we move these basic quality initiatives, basics of hand hygiene, basics of surgical safety checklist. I mean, the basics of the patient care, patient safety standards to the tier 2, tier 3, tier 5, tier 6 cities, and the remotest corner of the country, our wide country, have to be engaged. And for that, you rightly pointed out, the manpower crunch is absolutely an issue where the provider ratio and the patient ratio has never been favorable. And the only way we can integrate this or scale up these operations is by use of technology. One, by using the digital technology which is already now there, by bringing in some basic. I think that's been a gift, the silver lining which has been given to us during the pandemic, because the Board of Governors, in supersession of the MCI, they notified the telemedicine guidelines. So lakhs of people, millions of people, they logged on to telemedicine platforms to reach out to people. So that's one model which has kind of been tested now. So that surely will complement and supplement our efforts. That is one. Another thing which has been shown is that the Ayush segment also, they came up, the Indian system of medicine, so that they have to be integrated. They have to be validated. It's a traditional system based on the goodness of maybe 4,000, 5,000 years of richness which our heritage offers. So those things, those practitioners of Ayush system have to be mainstreamed and integrated and validated by scientific rational study. That I'm sure the ministry is doing a wonderful effort on that part. Another thing is the accreditation process. Though NABH is very fortunate now to have about nearly 10,000 hospitals in its fold, but there are lakhs of hospitals which have no clue about these processes. And time will tell and prove me right that every hospital which is used to following mock drills, as Dr. Srivastav said, every hospital is used to following SOPs, which is a way of life which NABH or any accreditation, NQAS, let's say, prescribes. So I'll not bat for only NABH or NQAS or JCI. In fact, any accreditation process, any drill is very much required, because time will tell that these hospitals, they adapted to the changing dynamics very, very well. As Dr. Madan Gopal said, our country as a whole moved in unison. The top leadership led from the front, imposed the lockdown, which I believe, was a very good step initially to curtail the numbers and boost up our preparedness. And then going further, these hospitals which were used to following the drills, the SOP, they adapted and adopted very well. So that's the only way forward, to have SOPs in place, to have drills in place, and then carry on with an energy and to prepare for future in a robust manner.
Absolutely. All right. So taking the discussion forward then, since you're talking about telemedicine and Dr. Srivastav, you mentioned about infrastructure as well in your opening remarks. In the immediate near future, what is the kind of infrastructure that we need to focus on?
Frank, I think the first and the foremost thing is application of the technology within the overall facilities which are used for the public health purposes. Now, this technology can be of any type and can reach up to any extent. It can cut across the human resource requirement, it can cut across the supply chain management, it can cut across the self learning and lifelong learning. Anything and everything is possible. But this is one lesson which we have learned, and I will give you a very simple example. When there is a pandemic, and we are lucky that yet not the government has declared that we have reached into the community spread, but the fact remains that at large number of the places there are clusters in the communities which have to be handled properly. Now, what is the best solution for such type of community spread? Which facility is most important? That is health and wellness center and the primary health care. Now, the technology application in these areas with the help of telemedicine, with the help of mobile app, with the help of various other applications which are there, so that you can communicate to them about the simple things which are preventive in nature, reinforce it repeatedly, and try to make a dent in the lifestyle so that transmission is checked, so that as soon as they develop symptoms, they can connect to a doctor easily without waste of time at the earliest. So that is something which should be taken up as something on priority. Now the second thing which is more important is that there should not be a very episodic type of arrangement. When I say episodic type of arrangement, I say that now the pandemic is there, we will try to apply technology within the primary healthcare system, and as soon as it goes, then our standards remain same. If you look at the global change, the Astana Declaration about the primary healthcare in 2019 probably says apply technology as much as possible. From that time onward, we have yet not utilized all these type of global direction to maximize the application of technology, because we have not realized that it cuts across the human resource also.
Right.
We say that we do not have human resource to manage health and wellness center. We are treating health and wellness center with the help of a bridge course trained persons, which will take long time to occupy all these 1.6 lakhs of the health and wellness center. But can't we think that 5 health and wellness center duly connected through a telemedicine with a doctor available, so it will reduce the human resource requirement to at least 1/4 or 1/5. So
Right.
these are the dividend which need to be worked out in this area.
Absolutely.
And second and most important thing is that you have not only to talk about the investment in the primary healthcare. About 2/3 of the investment in the primary healthcare. But factually, if you look at it, the investment for infrastructural development in the primary healthcare sector and the spending capacity of the states, which Niti Aayog always monitors, they find that the maximum of, although it is increasing, but that money is not being utilized in the way so that it can create a robust response mechanism in the primary healthcare system.
Okay, points taken. Let me take the points that you're making forward and bring in another aspect now. So, Dr. Gopal, as far as policy is concerned, do you believe that at some level we need some changes in our policies too going forward so that we can be better prepared for something like what we've just seen over the last few months for this entire year?
I think if you look at the way the health system has progressed in the country, one of the proponents for technology is saying that the technology is the answer for everything. If you look at the way the technology has alerted the Western nations and how the technology could not be put into practice, the catastrophe is visible. We have to see that how the practice is built into the technology, not the vice versa. Technological solutions are good, but we have to see that whether the practice has been factor when we are making a technological solution. That's one thing. Having said this, we are reviewing the surveillance system in the country, right? And lot of efforts are already going on since the last pandemic of H1N1. Lot of efforts were there. The IDSP program, the Integrated Disease Surveillance Program, they are trying to develop a integrated technology platform which is known as Integrated Health Information Portal. So, in which you get the individual level data from the village level that is coming into a platform, and based on the health event, you can able to analyze that whether the outbreak is there or not. That kind of system is there. But because of COVID, that implementation was slightly delayed. Otherwise, right now 5 or 6 states are there. But had it not been the pandemic, I think a lot of states would have joined that platform. That's one thing. The second aspect which has come in, the want of electronic health records. When the Ayushman Bharat portal was launched, we thought that is an opportunity to bring all the data together so that once the information is there, so you can at least make out, because if you see that the lack of data, what we are doing, everybody says that BCG is having a protective role. India has been doing BCG for the last many years, but where is the data to substantiate the stand whether the BCG affords a protection against this? There was another theory which was being proposed during this pandemic, that the use of the anti-malarials and the mass malaria therapy is having a protective effort. Had we had the data right from the village level where these programs were going on, you would have been in a better position to come up with an evidence and contribute to the knowledge of pandemic.
Right.
So as that, what has happened when the Ayushman Bharat program was there were two components. One was the health and wellness component, because till this time we were having a structure which has evolved over 60 years. That means the peripheral most structure was the sub-health center, which have been now upgraded to the health and wellness center. It's not that it's a new structure. It's an advancement of the sub-health center, which would be upgraded into health and wellness center with the application of more services and technology.
Right.
So that's aspect which is going to happen. So data from there will be coming, and for the secondary level care, the PMJ program is there. Now they are piloting the National Digital Health Mission, in which they will try to generate a patient ID, because in the European countries which are having the best of the electronic record, they also grab it having a common ID so that the data from one program from other aspects, they can talk to each other.
Absolutely.
So, right now it is being piloted so that the wealth of information will come, and these two programs will talk to each other during the coming course.
All right, Dr. Gopal, I'm sorry to interrupt, but because of paucity of time, I'm going to get a closing comment in from Dr. Kochhar as well. So, Dr. Kochhar, what's the best way forward?
So essentially, we have to, another final comments would be that sharing of resources. We have to see this global, on an unprecedented global scale, we have seen that nations have come together to share the data. Like ministry also, the states also, they've all put their resources in one common unified force to handle a common enemy, right? So that spirit must not go down. NABH, we put all our standards online free of charge so that people can see and learn and implement, if not adopt or subscribe also. Second thing, we've been listening this concept about herd immunity. So essentially, we have to now look at raising the level of quality. So herd quality is what I would say that, and that can only happen if we reach out to people, to the furthest in the line, and tell them about the essentials of hand hygiene, essentials. We have to start with the basic building blocks of healthcare, this thing which I'm sure the other Dr. Gopal and Dr. Srivastava also concurred, that the primary level, so primary level boost has to occur. Whether we deploy technology, whether we reach out to them, we have to share the best practices and increase that level of quality countrywide. Unless we do that, we do not have to be satisfied by creating more and more world class. We already have superlative facilities in the country. We already have public funded AIIMS. We have private chains of hospitals which are doing phenomenal work, and there's so much medical tourism which is happening and will happen. But the basic essential primary level healthcare We have to reach out to people, increase the quality, work towards universal health, work towards the SDG 2030, that sustainable development goal. So for that only, we have to increase the level of quality, the herd quality has to come up, essentially.
Okay. All right. On that note, then I'll call it a wrap on this edition of COVID-19 India Fights Back. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. Well, before I leave, we'd like to make an appeal to all our viewers. Remember, whenever you step outside, wear a mask. That is the least that you can do, and also ensure that you wash your hands and your face regularly while you step outside and maintain physical distancing. These small steps can go a long way in defeating the pandemic. That's it from me. See you again next time.